All right, so let's get started. Hi there, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. Our webinar is going to be more manufacturing-centric today, where we're going to highlight some key components of the manufacturing edition. Our agenda is as follows, where we're going to highlight some customer stories after our introductions, at which point I'm going to hand over to Murray, so he's going to do an overview of Acurus, Acumatica Cloud ERP, and some Acumatica manufacturing-specific modules and capabilities. Where then we're going to dive right into a product demonstration with Steve Swenson, and we're going to be able to wrap up with our Q&A. So if you do have any questions throughout the presentation, don't hesitate to type them in the chat, and if we have time, we'll most certainly address them or follow up with you afterwards. We do have three presenters today, and that is Murray Quibel, who is our president of Acurus. We have Steve Swenson, who is our business solutions consultant, and then myself, and we're going to take you through the different takeaways of the Acumatica Manufacturing Edition. So to get started, we're going to start with some of our customer stories today. And the first customer story I want to start with is Fidelix. So there was a couple of benefits that this customer saw primarily when executing the manufacturing edition. And one of them was that their inventory of their components was tracked much more efficiently. They also had better insight for which component is related to what light fixture and accurately reflected the true costs. They really like the ease of use of Acumatica and how it handles the workflows from sales to manufacturing to invoice, which was a huge benefit to them. With this being said, they were easily able to update their sales orders with component or part changes seamlessly, something which QuickBooks and Excel just didn't do for them. Their agile platform of Acumatica helped them grow and innovate because they weren't wasting so much time on their manual processes with using QuickBooks and Excel. So in addition to their commercial LED lighting interior business, they have now pilot projects retrofitting or replacing streetlights in so many different towns and municipalities, which as a result tripled their distribution of their manufactured products, and they're continuously moving into new markets. So that's just one of the customer stories of Fidelix. The next one that we have is a different manufacturer, and they're called Oakflex. Now, Oakflex had a lot of key benefits to them, and one of them was that their production staff finally had access to a production system which was an integral part of their transactional process as a whole. So their controls were programmed into the process and system, which allowed their manufacturing personnel to view and, more importantly, analyze the production process from start to finish. The complete solution helped the company make desired decisions with more gleaning and complete insights into their business. They did reduce their total cost of ownership even after they were live and added more users. So the Acumatica system was more affordable even after they've grown. And they really had a better view of their true costs of production. So with manufacturing nicely integrated, they were able to determine verifiable product costs, ultimately a solid pricing model, which, like Pat says, increased their gross margin percentage dramatically. So that's just a quick high level of these case studies. If you are interested, I can share them with you, or you can visit the acumatica.com website and go under the customer stories. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Murray to dive into some more details.
Thank you, Samantha. First of all, I'm going to spend about the next 5 minutes going through a few slides covering a little bit about Acurus solutions, Acumatica, the Acumatica Manufacturing Edition, and then a little bit about the business processes and workflow. And then we'll turn it over to Steve, who'll get into our demonstration. So first, I'll highlight 4 points about our company, Acurus Solutions. So first of all, we're a gold certified Acumatica partner based in Calgary, Alberta, with offices in Burnaby and Kelowna, BC. We're cloud ERP experts since 2010. And at that time, I personally went looking for an ERP, a true web or cloud-based ERP system that had enough functionality for the mid-market. And that's when we found Acumatica in 2010. Our team of experts, it started with me, and now our team is currently around 20 people, including CPAs and business specialists of all kinds, but particularly subject matter experts in the areas of manufacturing, distribution, and e-commerce. we want to talk about today is we're going to get very operational focused, and we're very passionate about operations-based ERP. Now, what that means to us is that the operational data should be captured once at the source. In our examples today, the source could begin with a customer order, a sales order, or directly from a production order. But we want to see the data flowing through the shop floor, through shipping, invoicing, and financials all in real time. So there's a little bit about Acumatica and some key points about Acumatica. This is what drew us to Acumatica originally back in 2010, and it keeps us there today. First of all, it's completely web-based. There's no legacy code, no client install, and no servers. So it's born in the cloud as a complete web-based application, and that's fairly unique in the industry. The platform itself, like I said before, we had to have robust functionality, including financials, customer relationship management, distribution, e-commerce, and manufacturing. From a platform, it also has the power to extend into other areas, and also the flexibility to be able to integrate and load data and things like that. We're finding the flexibility and the ease of use is better than what we're finding in with other products that we've used before. Upgrades on your own terms, customer self-service resources. Again, we want to empower you as the customer to make sure that you can leverage us or learn on your own, whatever works for you. The pricing model, again, is fairly unique to Acumatica. It's unlimited users, consumption-based model. We just want you to pay for what you use, and we're not penalizing you as you grow. We want the system to grow with you. A little bit about the technology. In our view, this stuff should just work. You shouldn't be needing to muck around with servers and devices and anything like that. For us, mobile devices and other devices, including Alexa and stuff like that, those are natively supported by Acumatica. We'll quickly get into the Acumatica industry editions. Of course, today we're going to focus exclusively on the manufacturing edition. Manufacturing builds upon distribution edition, and distribution edition is where we find the features around inventory management and purchase orders and sales order management. The manufacturing edition then builds upon that with really two key modules. That's bills of material and production management. Bills of material is, of course, the framework for production specifications where we manage default component items, labor, overheads, and routing. Production management then takes it from there. So you start with a BOM, the user can edit that, and then it takes it through the production cycle and through the costing. So Steve is going to get into both of these in his presentation today. Some of the additional modules within Acumatica Manufacturing Edition. Now, we're not going to get into those too much today, but we'll certainly, want to review them with you depending on your journey in your software. But what we want to do is just introduce them here. So MRP, Material Requirements Planning, Advanced Planning and Scheduling. So this allows you to do automated system automation based on demand levels or demand from customers and so on. And then advanced planning and schedule allows you to do finite capacity plant planning and scheduling from there. Estimating and product configuration, that's where we can do custom items that may not even exist, so we can do new items. Product configurator allows you to have some custom configurable options and choose that on the fly as you're creating an order for the customer. Shop floor data collection, I'll highlight that quickly, but that's in the next couple of slides, but that's where we're using the Acumatica mobile device. So right here, we're showing a screenshot of the Acumatica mobile app. In the manufacturing context on the shop floor, we can scan materials, we can scan move transactions. In behind here is an example of a production ticket with barcodes that allows you to use the user to just scan and go about their business on the shop floor. And here's just an example. As we scan an item, we can scan it to the production order, enter the quantity, and then send, and we're on our way. Just a little bit about the workflow. And again, Steve's going to take this into depth when he gets into his demonstrations. Steve will start with the bills of material here and a little bit around engineering change notices and how that can drive a bill of material and revisions. Then you'll take us through the flow, which would start in some cases with a customer order. It goes to a sales order, which can drive a production order directly from sales order items. So if the items are not in stock, and if it's a manufactured item, a production order can be created from there. And then it takes it through the production process, where we assign the materials, labor. We move it through its assembly areas, takes it into inventory, right into shipping and invoicing, all seamlessly integrated through all the financials and all the operational steps that you need to do. We can also initiate production orders based on forecasts and schedules from MRP, and then also straight from a production order, we can start from there. But we'll let Steve take us through those scenarios. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Steve. So thanks for joining us today, and Steve, take it away from here.
All right, thanks everyone. Thanks, Murray. So I'm just going to share my screen here now, and you'll see when I've logged into my home page, my dashboard. And as you can see across the top, I'll be looking at a couple of different dashboards. There's a production manager and a manufacturing dashboard. I'm starting off today on the engineering dashboard. And where I wanted to start was talking about engineering change requests and engineering change orders. This will lead us into the bill of materials. How are they constructed and what kind of options do you have? And from there, I'll move into production orders. And as Murray mentioned, I will talk about how sales orders are directly tied to production orders and how you can monitor the information that you need to from there. So from this screen, I have a number of different widgets on this screen. The one I'm going to look at here is I have an ECO effective this month. This is the first one this is the only one that's created in this month. But if I click on this item on my green square, what it will do is it will go out, it launches a listing of all of my engineering change orders. And this one will be filtered based on transactions that are dated in the current month. All right. The one thing that I wanted to talk about was kind of a little bit of a workflow before I get into this is the engineering change orders, the ECRs, are if there's a request by engineering to change something, to change a build, they can create an engineering change request and make a suggestion to the change of how they would like to build, I'd like to change something. Once that has been determined, somebody's gone through and tested it and it's been approved, it becomes an engineering change order. And I am just going to refresh here really quickly because something is not loading on my screen properly. But what the engineering change order then does is it says you have another chance to be able to review. And somebody can go through and say, yes, this is the effect of the costs that if I make this change request or this change order, what will the cost effects be on my change order? I'll click on this one again. And there we go. It's opening up my listing now. And what will happen then is once that change ECO, the engineering change order, is approved, it creates a new revision to the original bill of materials. It doesn't just change the bill of materials itself, it changes a revision to it, or makes a revision to it. So what you'll see on this one is I have an engineering change order for bill of material number 1, revision B, and it's for a printed circuit board. So I have assembly of a printed circuit board that is used in a number of different other areas of the system. So I can click onto my ECO number. This launches my engineering change order. Gives me a bit of information here about the design. This change order now looks exactly like my standard bill of materials. I have in the middle screen, I have my different operations. So I have different work centers of where it's assembled. And then there's a final assembly phase once that first part is finished. In each of these levels, operation ID number 10 at the work center 10, I have some materials that are added. And on this engineering change order, you'll notice that my resistor is in bold. And the reason for that is because anything that's in bold are the items that have been changed for this change order. The nice, easy, simple way to find this out is if I simply go up to Actions and say Compare BOM, it will launch another screen that gives me my change order on the left, and it gives me my original BOM that's on the right. And the items that are highlighted with the yellow question or exclamation mark are the items that have changed. So by simply clicking on these two items, I can see now down at the bottom, my original bill of materials had a quantity required of 4. I've decided that the change order suggestion has been we should be changing this to 8. So once this goes through, instead of requiring 4 per unit, it will require 8 per unit, and everything from that point on, which would be bill of material number 1, revision B, would all be then using twice as many resistors. So this allows us to go through, and the good thing about this now is I can simply come in, I can click submit once I've made all my changes to whatever processes I'd like to change on my bill of material, and that goes through the approval process. Somebody in the company, whoever is responsible for this, would be getting a notification, and they would be able to go in, they would be able to review the changes like I just did, and they'd be able to approve or reject it. Once they've approved it, you'll notice there's an option here that says commit changes to the bill of materials. The full approval, I can go through and do this. I clicked on that, and now I can say approve. The only reason I can do that is because my name is Maxwell Baker. I'm at the top of the company. I'm allowed to do both. So now my actions keep moving down the list, and I can commit changes to the bill of materials. By clicking on this commit changes, what it does is it updates the bill of material from bill of material 1 revision A to revision B, and it updates the inventory item AMPCB, the printed circuit board, to use revision B from that point forward as a default. So this is a nice way for the engineering company or engineers of the company to be able to keep track of what's in the system, what's in each build, and be able to update them as you go. So there isn't any confusion of which ones were built with what version of PCB or printed circuit board, that kind of an idea. From here, it does give me the ability to also see a few other metrics, what percentage of my ECRs were completed, which ones have been approved, how many are still pending approval, and I can see all of that information. My ECO status right now, I'm 1 and 1. I have one that's still outstanding, there's one that's been approved, and one that's still on hold waiting for approval. So from that point now, what I can do is we can move on, and the bill of material has been updated. I'm going to switch over to the production manager, and the production manager can now see all of the different production orders that have not been started, are the simple ones. You can see up in the top left corner, he's got a late production orders. So there are 10. Oh, let's just refresh that. It shouldn't change. So there are 10 production orders that are late. Down in my bottom corner, I could click on the red box at the top, but down in the bottom corner, I also see that there are orders not started. These are orders that have been created as a production order, but have not been released into the system yet. So if I look down at production order number 16, it's for my PCB. If I click onto that item, it launches the production order maintenance screen, and I can see that there are 20 of these ready to be built. They were supposed to have been built on April 9th, but the system is still recording them as planned. The nice thing about this screen for the production order gives me all of my information about this production order, why it was created, when it was created, by who, and so on. So on my references tab, this one doesn't have a customer or sales order or project or any other information linked to it, because this is just a stock order, build to stock for me. So it's using bill of material number 1, and it's using revision A before the ECO that I was just going to approve, because I haven't finalized that approval. Once I've gone in now, I can simply come up to the top here and say, I'd like to release this order. It's the next step. I could go through and recalculate my plan costs before I do this, but for now, I'm just going to hit release. And now I have a production order that says released, it's been taken off of hold, and I'm allowed to start producing these items. The event history tab keeps track of all of this information. It records that on April 2nd, the administrator used the MRP the manufacturing requirement or material requirements planning display to create this order knowing that we needed it. Unfortunately, it took a few months and some before I activated it and released the order. So from this point on now, this order is available in production and people can start doing work on it. From that point, again, all they need to do is go up to actions and you'll see that there's a release material, there's a create move, there are a few items in here. Releasing the material is fairly straightforward and says, yes, I need some circuit boards and I need some resistors. Those are the quantities that I have. These are the quantities that are available for them. And if I'd like to release these materials to my order, my production order, I can simply select on them, or I could have done a select all. It creates a material batch for me. I uncheck the hold and I say release. And what the system is doing now is it's going out and it's taking all of these items out of stock and it's going to transfer those costs into a work in progress account. So these have gone through and now my production order has materials assigned to it. So if I close this window, whoop, I didn't want to close that all the way back, but I'll just pop it open again from my dashboard. From my dashboard now, if I go to my event history, we'll see that there's a third line added. That third line is my materials that were charged to it. And if I click onto the material, the batch number, I can see all the materials that have been released. The same options go for if I wanted to add labor, if I wanted to do anything else. So once I've gone through and I had multiple steps in my production order, I can create a move transaction. And the move transaction simply states, when I create this item, I think I clicked on create move. There we go. So when I create a move transaction, what I'm saying is I want to move my transaction from along the process from one work center to another. And what it does is it keeps track of all of that information. So if I was finished all 10 or 20, I could put them in, or I could adjust it and say, you know what, I'm only finished 10 as of today. And the same process as our material release, I can uncheck it and release. And what happens now is I can go back to, if on my production order, I would see that 10 of them have finished up in operation number 10, and they're moving on to the final assembly phase. So this information is all updated in my screens. So if I quickly refresh, you'll see that there was cost transactions and a move transaction that moved things along in the process. The really nice thing about these orders now is we want to be able to track, we've streamlined the processes now. We want to be able to generate accurate pricing and be able to see all of the details of what are the costs happened working through on this. So if I click to my totals tab on my production order, I'll see that I have expected labor time of 3 hours. $60 is my cost. Materials was $520. I have an overhead amount of $30, and I'm producing 20 of them at $610. They're $30.50 each. What the system is doing as well now is it's keeping track of all of my materials, the actual costs. So just because I estimated my materials at $520 doesn't mean that that's what they actually cost me. There might have been a cost increase. Maybe I ordered in bulk and I got a discount, and so the cost of my items has changed. So the system is keeping track of what I planned it to be to what my actuals were, and it'll keep a list of my variance. Right now I have a variance of $60 in labor because I haven't charged any labor to this item yet. Same thing with my fixed overhead. The fixed overhead can be automatically charged to the system. And once it's all finished, it'll tell me what my WIP balance is. And when I'm completed, it clears all of this information out. All right. So I've gone through now and I've touched on some of the production items. The really nice thing that I like about the system as well is there are other, like I'm doing most of these items from a production order. I also have the option of being able to go into the screens directly and I can see a list of my items. So if I brought in a list and I said, let's check out one of these items and say, I've got one that's closed. Let's look at my PCBs. So these were my printed circuit boards and the status of this item says closed. When I look at this production order, I see my history, my event history, I have costs, materials, and I have a WIP adjustment at the end. The reason for that is when I completed all of my items, the system calculated that there was a $10 variance in my materials. I estimated 520 as my planned cost, and I ended up coming out to 530. So the system had a variance of $10. So what's really good is once you've finished moving all of your items, it put them all into stock at the correct price, and then it adjusted the $10 variance to a variance account that you can track later. From this point, I can now go back to my dashboard. And one of the things that Murray had talked about is we had talked about the ability to create a sales order and have the sales order generate the production order. I have another dashboard here in manufacturing, and manufacturing has a dashboard that says late production orders that are tied to a sales order. I can look at these ones and I can see that a shower kit assembly for ABC Holdings on this invoice was promised on May 21st. I'm already a couple of weeks overdue. Simply with these, when I look at these production orders, this production order has a reference back to that sales order, and I can see that sales order is tied into here. I should be going in and producing these, or I should be contacting my customer and indicating to them that we've had a delay in whichever and explain to them what their new shipping date would be. From the sales order itself, you can see the same information. So this is my shower kit kits that were going to be created. And what we see as we scroll across my screen is that there were marked for production, and there's production order 40 that was used to create these. All of this information allows us to track data throughout the system. So when an order is created, a production order is also created, and we can continue to follow the information through. I think that's about everything I was going to touch on today. I guess I can turn it over to Brenda to see if there are any questions at this point.
Thank you, Samantha, Murray, and Steve. That's a really great presentation. I do have a couple questions, and since we have a couple minutes, we'll go through them. The first question that was submitted was, it looks expensive. What does something like cost? Can you answer that, Sam?
Yeah, sure. So that is a very, very common question we often receive, so I'd be most happy to address it. The Acumatica system is module-based, so that means that you're only paying for what you need. Naturally, Acumatica comes in much more affordable because you're not paying for unnecessary components if you don't need them. So in addition to this, if there isn't a need for you to switch, we don't push a switch. We always like to keep in mind that if we believe in effective digital transformation, which means that your efficiencies need to be increased to save you time and money to justify a change. So that would be my 2 cents on that.
Thanks, Sam. We've got another couple of questions that have come in. The next one is, can you track serialization? Steve, is that something that you can answer?
Yes, definitely. All of the items, whether it's a raw material or a finished good, can be serialized or lot numbered. So when you created the printed circuit boards, if each one of them was serialized when we manufactured them, we'd be able to record that these were the serial numbers we generated or we created. And then when those printed circuit boards are used further into another higher level build, they would be components of that higher level build, and the serial numbers would also be assigned when I did the material issues batch to the job.
Great, thank you. One last question, and we're just at the end, but I think this will be quick. I'm going to send this one to you too, Steve, is can you scan?
Yes, definitely. A number of areas. Murray mentioned at the very beginning the mobile app that has the ability to scan, and there was a screenshot that had some barcodes on it. You can do this. You can do scanning at a number of different areas. The materials when you're issuing, or the move stage when you're moving them through the processes. So when you move from one workstation through to another throughout your shop floor, you can always scan your items, and it keeps track of them simply. The really nice benefit as well is that there is no required or limitations on the type of scanning devices you can use. You can use a simple smartphone, an Android or an iPhone, or you can go out and you can get specific devices that are wireless or wired scanning utilities. They all work the same with Acumatica.
Great, thank you very much. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today and remind you of our next webinar on Thursday, June 18th. The topic of that one is going to be integrated e-commerce powered by Acumatica, Shopify, and BigCommerce. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll talk soon.